All right. We are, well, not live, but we are now officially recording with a great friend of, I guess, the YouTube channel of myself and Matt, Uncle Sharma. As you know him, I think you've been on this channel before. If not, you've been on the State of Play podcast. And obviously, I've been on your channel a few times. But thank you so much for doing this on short notice. Not many Inter fans I know are even capable during this time. But I knew you'd be happy to discuss this because it's been in your favor so much. But anyways, how are you and how are you feeling after the first leg?
Yeah, no, thanks for the invite, and I would have been happy to discuss it regardless of the result. Don't worry, even if we were losing, I would have come on. Yeah, obviously, I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling good going into the second one, but as much as you want to downplay it on our side, I am still nervous because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm never sure if I can trust this team.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. It's been a truly bizarre season for Inter. If we want to just start from the back again, we know the financial issues, probably the most volatile out of any team in Europe, I think, especially short-term outlook, long-term outlook, what's happening with ownership, how is the payment going back with Oak Tree, who's going to be able to stay. Inter really needed this run in the UCL just to even hopefully keep afloat. You're a top heavy side in terms of the talent you have. You're still going this far without your best defender since your treble winning teams. It's truly remarkable what Simone Inzaghi has been able to do while losing his best players. And there was even a point this season where Inter were dropping points in Serie A, and it was only by losses. You guys were not drawing any matches whatsoever until I think midway through the season. It had to be sometime in 2023, I believe, sometime in January.
Yeah,
You drew your first match, which is remarkable. Usually a side that was not losing the past couple of seasons. First one with Simone, and then obviously with Conte, you were rarely losing. Now in just one season, you're losing all these matches. Somehow, it's likely you're back in the Champions League next season, whether it's winning in the final or just qualifying for top four. Top four almost seems like a wrap considering what Atalanta, Roma, and Milan are like. But just, it's never not a roller coaster for Inter, Sharma. But I mean, what has this? I don't know. Even if you want to go past since the return of the international break, when the quarterfinals started, what did you think about this? You were going against a Benfica super team that's smashing records in Portugal. You dismantle them. You take care of Porto. You handle Milan. I mean, so far, like, what has that been like? Also seeing what's going down in Serie A.
yeah, it's just the weirdest season. Like yeah, as you said, it's always a roller coaster with Inter, but this season has been the most typifying of what Inter are known as Pazza Inter. Crazy Inter has just been ups and downs, real lows, real highs, and Inzaghi really building on this cup merchant reputation that he's building. Like maybe becoming like the new Ancelotti, because I keep comparing him to him because he gives me those kind of vibes with this kind of nice guy, demeanor that he has that's a little bit different from other coaches out there. Um, yeah, it's been weird. Lukaku came, he was, labeled a flop after his first injury, kept him out for like 4 months.
Yeah.
Brozovic was out, but now everyone is back where our injury, apart from Skriniar, everyone is back, as you said. But your twin, Matty Doms, has been stellar. I mean, he's been amazing at the right
Incredible.
centre back position. Wherever you play that guy, he's always good. And yeah, I don't know, just unity. I think unity over the last few weeks. Inzaghi was attacked left, right, and center in the media. Rightly, maybe, especially for the league. 11, as you said, like we
Yeah.
recovered in the league, but 11 losses is just unacceptable for a team like
Yeah.
Inter. But everyone else around us is also dropping points, so it means that we're okay.
No, exactly. I mean, the start to the season for Inter and Juve, I thought were just really miserable. If you're looking at it from both of those perspectives, I mean, the Milan derby. I know the scoreline looked closer than what it was in that 3-2 match, but it was really just Milan dominated. Like they were in complete
Oh yeah, that
control.
was awful. That was one of the
Yeah,
worst lobby performances I
it
remember.
was. It was really stunning because Leao just took over. That's really what it was. Inter had some interesting goals there, but a lot of what's been happening between the two of these sides is Inter's getting their set pieces and they're making the most of them. I can recall the past three massive matches in Serie A or even the Champions League, because I put Serie A in front of like Supercoppa, Coppa Italia, Inter's really been getting a lot of goals on the set pieces. Perisic, I believe, scored on the 2-1 victory. We saw Lautaro in the one where you guys won 1-0 when we were free falling. We changed formations, didn't start Leao for whatever reason. And then again, to start this one, Dzeko scores a fantastic volley. You go up 1-0 in that. Tonali looked to be the player that completely mismarked Mkhitaryan for this one. Very similar to the goal that Brozovic, I believe, was the one who scored that first derby, where it's just like, how are you missing that assignment? How are you just letting a midfielder just run in behind the defense where it's a clear shot on goal? So even Magnan can't even be at fault at that point. Again, I think the difference is, and especially with no Benacer now, that the midfield level of Inter is just so much further ahead than Milan, because even I do like Tonali. I think he still played okay outside of that mismark. He had the best chance created for Milan. He hit the post as well. He's doing some things, but Sharma, you know this. You've seen your team go this deep into this competition. You're not going to be able to win if your best midfielder is a 23-year-old Sandro Tonali and the next best one is Krunic, who is okay, but he's okay if he's your fourth or fifth option, like an Aslani, or I'm not gonna bring up Gagliardini, but he's somehow still getting minutes. But that's the point. Inter go 3 or 4 players deeper that are better than Krunic. On top of Barella right now, I got to be honest with you, Sharma. Out of the 4 teams left in this competition, I guess you could say even Kevin De Bruyne is maybe the only better midfielder left. To be quite honest with you, if you go off of form as well, I mean, Nicky Barella is just, he's incredible. I think technically speaking, he's one of the best midfielders that Serie A has seen in the past 10, 15 years.
Yeah. No, he keeps growing. He keeps adding. Like, we asked him to like start scoring more goals, and he's adding those goals because with his ability, he should be having 7-8 goals a season, and he's doing that. This year has been his best goal scoring season. So that's the thing. Like, when Inter fans, when they criticize, the Dumfries or the Gagliardinis, like, when we were underperforming, it's when our top guys are underperforming, and those are the guys we need to hold, to a higher standard. When Lautaro goes missing for 2 or 3 months, that's that hurts us. But like now, Lautaro is back on form, Lukaku's back on form. And the midfield, Mkhitaryan, probably one of the most underrated signings of the season. He's back on form. Hakan, as much as you guys dislike him, he's probably one of our most consistent players.
It's Hakan is really just of when it's going well, it's well, and when it's not, it's just you just see a player in his own head, and he just couldn't get out of it. And I think the situation.
But I think he's got rid of that. I think he's got a little bit like this. I think in that CDM position, especially, I think because you can't go missing in that position. You're the most probably the responsible position in the whole team. And I think that position actually has helped him just kind of stabilize his, like, there's no 5 out of 10 performances from him anymore.
It's environment. And I know we've had this conversation multiple times. I've even talked to Mario and Anthony Privitera about this. Like, there's a difference between being the number 10 and a focal point in Milan, trying to restart this new generation where you're struggling, you're going, absent at times is what he was doing. It's totally different. At Inter, he's the 3rd or 4th best midfielder. He's not really asked to do as much. It's, can you be really good on set pieces, which he has been. Are you able to win a lot of ground duels? He was actually pretty good work rate wise at Milan. It was really the output that was lacking from him, because you just see all these set pieces that he's scoring from midfield in Bundesliga. Maybe it's Bundesliga tax, but he's not even he never even scored a free kick goal at Milan, which is just bizarre. Kudos to him. I think he really turned it around in that first derby last season where he scored the penalty. Exactly. I think he realized he has people back in his corner, because when he was at Milan, there was no one to defend him at that point.
Yeah, I think he's used this as fuel, like some players do. I think he's actually. I thought it would be like negative because he doesn't strike me as a guy. I don't know. He seems a bit overly emotional, but actually, it seems to actually help him. And I think he was never a number 10. Like, even as a mezzala, I don't particularly rate him. No. I think his position is that CDM position.
Yeah, it's tough. I think with Inzaghi's formation, it's perfect. It's just Milan. We're also using him as a left winger at a
Yeah.
certain point. It's just that just speaks to the managers that Milan have had in recent years. But
Mm.
anyways, heading into tomorrow, I want to know how you feel about this. A 2-0 lead is never really safe in a singular match, let alone a full new 90 minutes that you have to be playing home and away, whether you care about it or not. Inter are the home team for this one, so there will be more Interisti in the stadium at this point. Um, I know there was no Rafael Leao last time. I know there's some people who want to make excuses, not want to make excuses. I will say this. I do use examples of 94 Milan when they beat Barcelona in the Champions League 4-0. But that was also like a great team top to bottom.
Yeah.
This Milan side is just, if you look outside of Rafael Leao, how many players in the attack start for other teams in the top six sides in Serie A? Sharma, it's maybe none. And that says a
Yeah.
lot about a team that's in a Champions League semifinal down 2-0 after not having, in my opinion, at this point, he is the most valuable relative to his team, and Rafael Leao is the most valuable player in Serie A. I just from a perspective of viewing how Milan are going to be going into this match, how scared are you of them, if you are at all?
I'm scared of more the occasion more than
Yes.
Milan, to be
Okay.
honest. Is like, the pressure, semi-final, and I've seen, these guys sometimes do bottle it at times. Like, against you guys, we bottled it
Yeah.
last season in that derby where we were winning 1-0, and then you guys came back to win 2-1. So I'm afraid of something like that. Like, I just can't help it, even though we are in a pretty good position
Yeah.
and we're at home, as you said. But I do feel now, like, especially in these cup competition, I do feel confident that these guys can do the job. Inzaghi can get us over the line. And yeah, even if Leao starts, I mean, how fit is he going to be? Like, he's not going to be. There's no way he's
Well, he
100%.
was full group training, is what Pioli has mentioned. And again, we know a lot of his game is predicated on his speed, because he's
Yeah,
he's impossible to defend 1v1. You just can't do it. And that's the beauty of this, because well, for Inter, the beauty for you guys is that you really just have to defend him on the counter attack. I know that's easier said than done, but you're going to be able to get away with doubling him. Darmian has been shown that he could handle his own against him, let alone, having a second player to help out. And Inter could afford to do that with the lead that you have. My question is, are you a little shaky or a little worried about your defense? Your defense hasn't been that great. Considering what Milan had in attack last match, they did have some decent opportunities at times.
yeah.
Do you worry now that you also allowed 3 goals in that second leg against Benfica? You also allowed in a few goals over the weekend at Sassuolo. Do you kind of think that you are susceptible to blowing this lead? And I know you kind of answered that a little bit, but on a larger scale over 90 minutes, I think you're fine, because if it's going to be so open, you have the finishers for this. You have the strikers to put these goals away. It's not like Milan have an impenetrable defense. It's shaky at times as well, like Inter's.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the tactical outlook. Like, where our defense is really susceptible when we're in open space, or like,
Yeah,
on the counter attack, like, Acerbi, Darmian, Bastoni. They're not comfortable defending in those open spaces, especially
yeah,
if it's Leao, going at you 1v1. It's scary, but
yeah,
as long as we keep, a little bit of a lower defensive line, and
yeah,
play as we should, as much as it might maybe not be entertaining, you got to do what you got to do tomorrow, and just sit back a little bit deeper. Don't allow you guys to have open space. And usually in these matches, the thing is, the concentration
yeah,
is much higher. Against Benfica, I guess, they dropped their concentration. And yesterday or the other day against Sassuolo as well, we were
yeah.
2-3-0 up, and they just dropped their concentration. But I doubt they would do that in
Yeah,
a
in
game
this
like
month,
this.
yeah, completely different. Yeah. So we'll get to some of the questions right now, because I know you're short on time.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll start off with, apparently he's our biggest fan, Perisic. So this is a very interesting question. And this is including all the competitions that both of these sides were in. They were literally in every single competition together because of the Supercopa.
Mhm.
If either team makes it to the UCL final and loses, would you still consider it a failure of a season overall? I'll let you answer for Inter, obviously, and then I'll go for Milan.
I think no. I think making it to a Champions League final, and I mean, it's depending on the top four. If you do make the top four and you have a Champions League final, like obviously you can ask for more in the league.
You won the Supercoppa, and you have a really good chance of being Fiorentina in the final for Coppa Italia. So say I'll rephrase it. So say two trophies. They're the smaller ones, but two trophies, top four, and a UCL final. Considering your financial situation, you're told this in August. You say what? Success or failure?
Yeah, that is a success, bro. Like, we haven't seen a Champions League final since 2010. Like, I'll take that. If you told me at the beginning of the season, I'll take it. I'll take 100%. It's just if you look at it like in details, 11 losses and things like that, then you can talk about it. But in a couple of years, when you think back to this season, you'll be like, Champions League final, top four. No one
and
really
again,
cares. If you don't win
I think Interisti are a little too hard. You guys are too harsh on yourselves because you're a sinking ship essentially in terms of it's true. It's true. You might be able to stay afloat and salvage whatever you can, but it's a sinking ship, and most teams in this situation wouldn't be able to survive. We've seen in the past with other Italian clubs. Inter have managed to do that. That's a credit to the management, who I thought Marotta, he has his hit and misses recently, but overall to just steady the ship and fix things after Conte left. I think it's a success for Inter if all those things happen. For Milan, listen, you miss top four. You go, and the only chance you have to make the UCL next year, and financially we know how important it is, even though it's not as dire as Inter. It's a failure. There's 0 trophies on the table. You won the title last year, and you know what? I blame ownership for this. Regardless if there was a change of ownership over the summer, if Elliott is retaining a portion of Milan for the future, it would make sense for them to boost the value of the club in any way they can, and that would be to invest. They invested the bare minimum, and that was the Scudetto prize and making the Champions League again. It was essentially CDK confirming some purchases and a Bosman for Origi. It really wasn't much at all. January, they signed a Paraguayan goalkeeper who never even was able to get ahead of Mirante, who is...
We never saw that guy as well, did he?
Davis Vasquez. No, Davis Vasquez. No, he's just, like I said, I made a joke of a tweet, was like, it would be a great trivia question in 10 years. Who was the goalkeeper that Milan signed during the January transfer window during their 2023 UCL winning campaign? That's probably not going to happen. But yeah, Milan, the only way Milan could salvage this season and call it a success is if they win the Champions League. And that's the reality of the situation. Coppa Italia was miserable, embarrassed in the Supercoppa. Whether you value it or not, it was an embarrassment. And missing top four, and this year in the way in which they did it.
Although I think even if you miss top four, I think you'll make it because of the Juve situation.
Here's the thing. It depends a lot. So the rumor is a 9-point deduction for Juve with the plus Valenza case. If that is the only case that gives them the point deduction, because you and I are one of the few people that literally harp on the fact that they still have other cases that are damning against them that could result in further penalties. But the point is this: Milan have to win out. I think even a draw, they would be okay because they beat Juve 2-0 when Bonucci was twerking for Brahim Diaz. I just have to bring that up. That was just a dismantling of them. But kudos to Juve at the end of the day. Like, they beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. That's why Allegri is a top manager. That's how Milan even made the Champions League with those awful sides 10 years ago, was because they had the ability to defeat these awful sides. Milan have not. But yeah, we'll see. So moving on to the next question. Ricky Buzz, great Inter fan. Where will this game be won and lost, midfield or defense? I think both, honestly, is the real answer about it. If Inter's, I would be stunned if Inter's midfield doesn't show out. They have a massive advantage in this. So I guess actually now I'll change up my answer. I think it's the defense for Inter. I think it's everything at this point. You have a 2-0 lead to hold, and there's no other excuses at that point.
Yeah. The defending starts from attacking midfield. So yeah, I think midfield battle is always big. Yeah, but if I had to pick one, I would go defense. Yeah, this time around,
because that's probably the place you point your finger at if this goes awry.
Yeah.
Guatem Sharma. If I'm saying that correctly, which of these two Italian clubs can actually win the final, and why is that Inter? He says. So, yeah, I mean, it's either the Real Madrid side, who never loses a final in any cup, or it's finally the first Champions League winning side for Manchester City. Yeah. So why do you think you guys could pull it off? I think in a singular game, you have the individual quality to pull this. I think talent wise, you are better than what Chelsea was when they beat Manchester
Mm,
City. Individual talent, player for player. I really do think that. I think their defense was better at this point, especially no Skriniar. But
yeah,
but the way they were never conceding at that point. But
yeah.
overall,
Mendy was really good, wasn't he?
Mendy
Forgot
was
about that.
insane. Rudiger was absolutely
Yeah,
amazing. Christensen actually tapped into his talent for a few
yeah,
months. But yeah, and we know anything goes in the final. We saw how you guys won your last Champions League. Why? What?
Mm.
Who? Like what? Why do you feel confident in it? If you are, is it the 90 minutes in football? Anything can happen. You like your individual quality.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, this Real Madrid team. I mean, we say it every year, but it's not the same Real Madrid team. You know, every year we say it,
You
but
just keep
you,
doing it.
yeah, you see, I mean, even the final last year. I mean, they got their asses kicked by Liverpool, but Courtois was, on top form, and then
Exactly.
they got their goal. So, and we always play really well. Like we've had Real Madrid in the group stages last few years. We always play really well, but then we get beaten. So
You
they have
lost to
our number.
Sheriff, right? Yeah, it was the
Yeah,
Sheriff. The teams you dropped to again, even this year with the Bayern
yeah. And
display,
Man
Barcelona.
City. Yeah, and Man City, Pep, his overthinking gene in the finals, whatever you want to call it. I'll take my chances. I mean, we wouldn't be favorites. I'm not going to go in there thinking we're
Of
favorites,
course.
but I think that suits us going in as underdogs.
I would agree with that. I don't think it's anything irrational to say. What chance do you give either team? This is from Massimo Di Marco. So I guess we'll just switch it to the Milan side of things. So Milan would have to pull off a miraculous comeback in this one. I
What
mean,
percentage do you give Milan?
to come back in this leg,
Yeah,
I feel like, dude, I was gonna say 30%, but that's too high. Um,
I think that's
I would.
realistic.
It's not insane. It's a 70% chance Inter do go through. If you want to spin it like that. My thing is, Rafael, I think if you have the best player on either side, which I do think in terms of just like when you score and take over a match like him, I just think he is the best right now. It's no disrespect to any Inter player. I think he is that good.
No, I agree.
I think you could do anything. And this, if Inter had Skriniar, if they were just really in an impenetrable defense like you had with Conte, I'd say no chance. With this, it's like you've seen you guys concede goals. We've played you well before. We really haven't had Rafa in the past two important fixtures. The Supercopa again, disaster. But like we didn't start our best player without our best midfield. Again, there's no Benacer with this. It's just
That's a big miss.
I think the path for Milan for this is going to have to be 2 goals in regulation, forced to extra time, and hope Mike Maignan proves why he's the best goalkeeper in the world in penalties. And that's really it. And I think that's how it's going to have to go. I know you're not much of a betting man, but you are interested sometimes in the numbers. Milan to advance to the next round to the UCL final is plus 1020, meaning if you put $100 down or £100 down, you would win $1,000. That's how unlikely it is at this point for Milan. And again, it's 2-0. I'm just saying for Milanisti my age and other people, if you saw what happened in 2005, you should know anything, Ken. And I'll leave it at that. I just don't see it. And again, with the Champions League final, nah, man. I mean, like, you're still not going to have Benacer for it. It would have to be a miracle. You have to get to penalties. You have to get to penalties. If Milan were to beat either of those sides inside the 90 minutes or even in extra time, it's still the most improbable cup win since Greece, in my opinion. I think it's more improbable than Porto's was, to be honest with you, with Mourinho. Because now looking back on it in hindsight, they had great players on Porto and they had Jose Mourinho, who
Yeah,
at the time, at the very peak, pinnacle, Jose, best manager of all time, you could say. And I like Pioli, I respect him, but Milan have Stefano Pioli.
yeah,
It's just up and down. You look, it would be a miracle. So yeah, 20%, even though it sounded worse. I don't really know too much about this situation with Tonali and Simone Inzaghi with these journalistic
Oh,
questions. So do you wanna speak on this? I kind of understood it, but I heard the second journalist talking to Tonali and Pioli completely changed up what was
yeah.
said by Simone Inzaghi. So
He
fill
he
us in with the
basically
yeah.
Yeah, he tried to create a little situation out of and he successfully did, because obviously Tonali and Pioli didn't listen to what Inzaghi said like an hour before.
It's not
So,
even their fault, by the way. For
yeah,
like
obviously,
they're supposed to know.
yeah. And this guy kind of tried to spin because of the referee assigned is a Frenchman, and the way the journalists phrased the question to Inzaghi is like, oh, is that an issue? And Inzaghi said, my friends said, they pointed this out to me that Milan have 4 or 5 French players and the referee's French, but for me there's no issue. And then to Pioli, this Milan news reporter phrased it like as if Inzaghi said, oh, you guys have got a French referee and now these guys have got an advantage. And then Tonali said, oh, okay, so let's give them a referee with no nationality. But obviously, like, he just got baited and it worked. But awful journalism all around.
Yeah, it's one thing if someone on Twitter is doing this, like Mr. Go doing, but this is
Yeah, that's
this
literally
this is a Champions League. This is a Champions League semifinal preview. I don't know if you're too familiar with what Ballsack Sports is in the US. Have you ever heard of them? They're basically this troll account that bought a verification on Twitter. Good job, Elon. That basically were just fabricating quotes and saying like things about players. That's essentially what has happened here. But yeah, stupid. Inzaghi, everybody's just looking silly. But imagine a fake quote reignites Milan's spark for this. That would be hilarious.
Yeah. Gives them a little fire.
Who do you prefer in the final, Sharma? City or Real Madrid?
I've been saying to my channel, like I slightly prefer City just because of that. Yeah, they don't have that winning gene heritage.
You're not scared of them. You're more scared of Real Madrid, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just their competition. It's like Sevilla in the Europa League. It's just like they own this, like So I'll go City, and since they sold like Sterling, Sane, those kind of quick wingers that we really have an issue with, I feel like they're not as scary. Although obviously they have that robot up front,
that beast. Honestly, it's gonna sound bizarre, and I've slept on this a bunch, and I thought about this before this question was presented. I actually rather face Real Madrid for whatever stupid reason. With Milan, this is just a Milan thing. I agree with you and think Inter should rather face Manchester City. For whatever reason, a small part of me believes that they don't want to face Milan in their final. Not that they don't want to face Milan in their final. I think they rather face Inter. It's just there's too much respect for Milan for whatever reason. This is like, if you told me the 2007 Milan side, probable that they weren't going to win that tournament, but within that side, there were great players. This isn't that Milan, guys. Everybody needs to, outside of I don't have to tell Inter fans because a lot of you guys don't respect the squad in the first place. I think a lot of other people don't within Serie A, but for some reason, outside of it, people constantly respect Milan, and I think that's a mistake. I don't think you should.
The heritage.
But it's been 16 years. There is no heritage at that point. That's gone. It's a very long gap. The only heritage is that of the director in Paolo Maldini. But I'd rather face Real Madrid because also beating this Real Madrid in the final would be the greatest thing because no one beats them. And if you're the side to do that and an improbable side, I mean, again, you could tell me Milan go trophyless for 3 seasons. I take it. I really would. Just don't miss the Champions League in top 4. That would be a disaster. Okay. So this is a pretty interesting question. You're likely to make top 4, but maybe we could filter in Inter as a hypothetical in this. Will you root for Milan, or I would root for Inter if they get past to the final? That could get a potential 5th UCL spot. But that isn't even necessarily how this would work, anyways, right? So the 5th place side. So 5th place
Europa League, no?
Right? Europa League winner would just take it if Roma or Juve would pull that off. I know you can't have 6 teams in. The maximum you would have is 5.
Yeah.
I don't believe there is a scenario in which a team does not win the Europa League, Inter finish 4th, and win the Champions League or Milan.
Well, basically, no. I wouldn't root for for a Milan win, regardless.
Right? Because you're rooting for you to win the Champions League. That's just to make it into the Champions League. Yeah. Me personally, I wouldn't root for you either. Because I'd just be like, nah, it's our own fault we didn't make top 4. I'd rather just say, nah, we missed top 4 and you lose the UCL final. Like that's petty to a new level, but I'd do it. Okay, so this is the last question. This is from Dove Sebare. It's not better for is it not better for both projects to sell all figures and change the model of the clubs focusing on That's already what Milan's doing, though, so I don't really
Yeah, you
understand
guys are
that.
already doing that.
Yeah, Inter, you're not, because the philosophies are clearly different in which you sign free agents. I know we did Origi, but yeah. So I don't know. Like this question is interesting because as of right now. Yeah, well, that's a really good question because I wanted to ask you this anyways. Is Inter okay if you make this UCL final, you make top four, say you lose the final? Are Inter still okay in terms of selling players? I know you're losing Skriniar. Would it only be one player at that point? You still have to pay back Oak Tree. I know that. I'm not sure how this factors into it. What would
Yeah, I
a
mean,
summer for Inter be looking like? Yeah.
yeah, no, but I mean, last summer we didn't sell anyone as well. Like, no one's given credit. I mean, it kind of backfired. You know, you commit now. You say you should have sold Skriniar, but then at the same time, you know, we didn't, and now it
Well,
didn't
well,
work
I'm
out.
I'm on this train, and we've discussed this when we were losing Donnarumma and others like Hakan and Kessie. And my point is to a lot of fans is okay, you could sell these players, these top players. You can get money back in for them. You can go someone that could be great for the future. There's no guarantee on these signings, but you do have a guarantee on what those players bring to you and what you're trying to accomplish in that season. We lost Frank Kessie for free, but we won the Scudetto. Was selling Kessie with 1 year left on his contract and not getting an adequate replacement better than not than winning the Scudetto? No, I mean, you lose a guy for free, it happens. All the top clubs in the world, Chelsea fans, you ask them, was it worth to sell Rudiger and Christensen come summer or January window and you miss out on the Champions League? I think sometimes you have to go all in, and if you know a player is going to leave for free, it's still better to have that player for a full season and lose with him than to sell him off and get somebody that again isn't going to be an adequate replacement
I
because you
think because
weren't
of the
getting someone better than
Skriniar, you
Skriniar.
know what it is? I think with the Skriniar, the injury is like now is tainted because now he's been useless for us in like the second half of the season. So
I agree.
it was
Yeah.
even if those rumors that PSG came back for him in January, then yeah, I was still like, you know, even if they give us 15, 20, don't take it. Like I want the Skriniar until the end.
Right. Yeah.
But now it's like, you know, we
Because
don't
you
have
knew
it.
you were risking top four because
Yeah.
Inter was very flaky at the start of that. So it's like, okay, do we keep Skriniar because what's worse for the club at this point? We recruit 15, 20 million for him, but we guarantee I'm missing out on the Champions League, which funnily enough, both times Inter lost their captain and probably should have spiraled out of top four. They still made it with
Yeah.
Icardi and Spalletti. I was convinced you guys would miss it that time and also this time. But yeah, I agree. And also, I do agree with your executives with trying to extend your best defender.
Yeah. I
I think you
mean,
have to do everything you
we did
can.
give him 7 million. Like he's made the highest paid player defender in the league. It would be, but you can't compete with PSG's 9 plus bonuses.
Exactly. Donnarumma would have been the highest paid Milan player ever annually. It was 8 million euro net
Wow.
is what they were offering. There was no Zlatan getting that money at his peak back in 2012. That just says a lot. But yeah, Sharma, that'll pretty much wrap it up. We went a little bit over. I really appreciate you having to join me today. There was no Santangelo. He's been working. Obviously, plug all your stuff. Your Instagram has been better. Finally, I've been badgering
Yeah.
Sharma
You,
for a very long time to do more short form videos because the content's so great. It's phenomenal. Please check it out, even if you're not an Inter fan. If you're just a football fan in general, he produces some of the best content for Inter on the planet. Yeah, so just talk about your YouTube channel. Congrats on 6K subs, by the way. Another big milestone for you. You might get to 7K if it goes all well tomorrow. But yeah, just plug the rest of your stuff.
yeah, no, as Martino said very well. Yeah, he's the one who's pushed me to do shorts, and yeah, I've been doing a lot more shorts. So thank you, Martino, and yeah, Instagram reels and stuff. So yeah, follow me underneath the Uncle Sharma and Uncle Sharma on YouTube, and yeah, I'll be doing a live stream preview later on my channel tonight. So check it out. And
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. So ultimately, we'll just do a final prediction, Sharma, for tomorrow. And you could just say what the overall tie is if you just want to say Integral through, that's fine. But do you have a prediction for the 90 minutes and what the score will be?
Um, I've got like a running joke on my channel at the moment. I'm predicting every game to be 1-1, and I'm being proven wrong, so I'm going to go again.
So
1-1.
1-1 again. Well, either way, that means Inter goes through.
Yeah.
No miracle for Milan. I'd be absolutely stunned if it obviously, I think everybody would be if this were to happen. I actually do think it might be 1-1. I think Milan are just going to come out and try and push for a goal. I think Lautaro ends up getting it, or Lukaku. I'd rather Lautaro score 3 goals than Lukaku get 1. I'll be honest with you. Just don't want to see Lukaku score. It's very annoying. But good for him for picking back up on the form. I actually did feel bad for him during the World Cup. I don't think any player deserves that sort of abuse. But best of luck to you guys tomorrow. I hope you choke. I know what it was like in 2005 on some level. Not really the same at all. But again, appreciate you coming on. Guys, please go and follow him. If you haven't followed me already, I mean, you probably do if you're on the channel at this point, at Martino Puccio, basically every single platform, TikTok included. Subscribe, like, comment on the video and what you think the score will be for tomorrow. Other than that, check you guys next time.